Town of Rome Board meeting to order for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021 at 5 o'clock. Number 2, roll call, starting from my left.
Wiesinger here.
Minter here.
Hasdell here.
Goldman here.
Barheit here.
Number 3, can we get a certified posting of the meeting, please?
I certify that on Friday, August 27th, 2021, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 2:38 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 2:40 p.m., at Pritzl's Trading Post at 2:45 p.m., and at Kusa Port Edward State Bank at 2:53 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda for today with the exception that item 10 be moved down pending the arrival of Tammy Olazinski from Ellers.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 6, citizen comments. None were turned in. We will dispense with number 6. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Number 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Start from my left.
Just remind everybody that Arrowhead has their annual craft sale starting on Saturday. I think it's 9 to 3 if I remember right. So that's a big event over there. And I'm sure they're going to have music and fireworks later and a whole day of activity and fun.
Fireworks are Sunday night.
Well, there's Sunday night?
Yep.
Okay. Carol, I assume you're going to take care of Tri Lakes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
Just a reminder, Tri-Lakes will have their annual meeting this Saturday at 9 o'clock at the shed down on Alpine. That's all I've got. Yeah.
I've got nothing to share.
Nothing here.
Discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 8, discussion and action approval of the August 19, 2021 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, discussion and action, checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 43292 through 43386, totaling $180,251.66. Auto payments totaling $111,505.92. State Social Security Medicare withholding totaling $34,300.48. Payroll vouchers V17564 through V17695, totaling $88,660.59. And checks number 21631 through 21632, totaling $221,045. Receipts number 22422 through 22539, totaling $1,515,632.26. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, discussion and possible action, presentation by Tammy Olszewski. Okay. Senior Investment Advisor with Eilers regarding the town's investment policy and portfolio of investments.
Tammy, just want to make sure that mic's on, that the red light's lit up on there.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Oh, sorry. Great, and does everyone have a copy? Was that included in the packet?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm Tammy Olszewski with Ehlers, and the last time I saw you was the time that we decided to initiate an investment strategy and create a portfolio for you. So that was...
We have 3 new board members. So.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well...
So if Tammy doesn't look familiar, that's why.
It's been a while, so congratulations on your new roles. To give you a little bit of background, Ehlers works with with you guys to ensure that your municipal finances are all up to date and in order. So Greg Johnson, my counterpart, actually works in our offices as well. Have they seen him yet?
They will see him next week.
Oh, okay. Greg and I should have coordinated. We could have carpooled, but who knows? But Greg Johnson is your municipal advisor, and then I am your investment advisor. And the key distinction is that Greg helps you with debt issuance, TID planning, as well as financial management planning, and then I help you invest your funds. So he identifies some idle cash for you, and then we put it to work. So we always work hand in hand, making sure that your team is up to date on what is going on with the portfolio. All decisions ultimately are made, by your finance team, and then of course I provide that guidance, and we provide monthly reporting as well. Now, to give you a summary on the overall performance, the account was actually funded. It was December, January. We had a couple of deposits. So you'll see on there the transaction total is about 1.506. And then of course we have had a little bit of income. One of the things that I warned Jamie about is it doesn't always look really good when you're purchasing fixed income investments initially, but you'll see on the next page with the cash flow that it's providing that predictable income stream moving forward. So it takes a little while to get that ball rolling, but now that you are invested in these fixed income securities, you basically are invested in a portfolio that is a combination of agency bonds, which are government agencies, municipal bonds, as well as a few CDs. That diversified portfolio is a fixed income portfolio, providing you, and we never want to say anything's guaranteed, but assuming that you hold the investments until maturity, and assuming that all issuers that you hold the investments through pay their income payments, you essentially can predict or you can bank on that income that's coming. We invest in very low risk, highly rated or insured investments for you. So everything that you see in your portfolio is highly rated or insured in some nature. CDs are covered by FDIC insurance or the state guarantee fund. Agency bonds carry an explicit or implicit guarantee from the government. If we were to purchase treasuries, it's just like purchasing from the government. Municipal bonds, we are always looking at the issuer to ensure that we're purchasing you solid investments as well. Now, if you are looking at the actual performance, as I mentioned, it's a little tricky as the portfolio starts to get rolling. We do have what's called a book yield projection. Book yield is just a fancy way of saying it's factoring in any purchases you've made and any expected income. So nothing very exciting right now, but it's about 0.53%. So it's dramatically better than what we're seeing on a lot of bank rates right now. Unlike your own personal investment portfolio where you probably expect to see 3, 7, maybe more percentages higher, this is a very, very low risk fixed income portfolio. So I always encourage individuals to be mindful of that. And typically we like to see between 1% and 2% for municipal portfolios. With the yields as low as they are right now, we get really excited about 0.50. So with that, if you flip onto the other side there, you can actually see that the projections on the income right now are showing that you have about $6,800 yet to receive for this year, so before the end of the year. And then of course next year we're projecting about $7,900 for the year. That's assuming you don't reinvest any of your maturities. So that will change throughout the year, and we provide that update every month in the statement as well.
Tammy, do you want to talk a little bit about how we don't lose on the base?
Oh, sure. So your actual portfolio, and one of the items I can cover in more detail if you'd like as well. If you look at the transaction total and the accrued balances, those two, so in theory, your accrued income, projected income, and currently received income, we don't want you to lose money. So we want your overall net total to be about the same. Right now, it is slightly below the initial deposit, and it isn't that you have lost money. It really is just that you've purchased securities with accrued income that you haven't earned yet. So you've paid potentially premiums on some investments, which is just what the market is dictating right now, but you also have accrual that you have not earned yet, as well as projected income with coupons. And then of course you do have on your agenda about the investment policy. So when I mentioned before that we only invest in fixed income type of securities that are of high quality, low risk, your investment policy is really the guidepost. So any recommendation that I provide is always based upon state statutes first, and if your policy follows state statutes, we will always use that as a secondary guide. And of course, if you have any potential concerns, or if there's any restrictions beyond what is permissible under state statutes, we use that in your investment policy. So that every time Jamie and I have a conversation, it's based upon what you are comfortable with, and decisions are made following that policy. And of course, I don't think we've made any dramatic changes. So the initial policy that was approved is based upon state statutes. So we don't have any specific limitations. At any given time, if you wanted to, you could certainly restrict any of those investment types. As I mentioned before, I don't know that it's necessary unless you had a really strong conviction one way or another. And the investment policy itself, you know, we keep it on file. We actually import it into our accounting system. So if I were to screw up and make a purchase that is outside of the policy parameters, it'll tell me, so it'll flag. Or if for some reason one of the purchases we made changes, so issuers, when you issue debt, you are issued a credit rating. If your rating were to change, anyone who holds your debt would be notified, and we would, of course, let you know if there was a dramatic change or anything to be concerned. So we do monitor your portfolio regularly for compliance as well.
How do we get a copy of the policy?
Oh, is it not included?
The policy isn't included in the packet. It was part of the orientation packet when we did that orientation night, but I can email it out
If
to
you
you.
give me an electronic
Yeah.
copy, I'd appreciate that.
And to give you an idea of the investments, so your permissible investments under state statute are really limited to CDs, and we always limit them to the $250,000 for FDIC insurance. In theory, you could purchase from other banking institutions in Wisconsin over the $250,000 up to about $400,000, but even your auditor will make note that that is not a guaranteed fund. It's really, I wouldn't rely upon it. You know, generally speaking, if you were to do that, we would ask that that banking institution provide you with collateral. The other investment types that are also available to you are municipal debt issuers. So just like yourself, you could purchase Wisconsin municipalities, and you don't have any limitations or restrictions. They don't have to be rated. But in any case, we will identify any concerns, and we will always review an issuer's credit quality, even if they're not rated. If you were to purchase municipal bonds from another state, you can do so, but there are limitations. You must, the maturity can't be longer than 7 years, and AA or higher credit quality. And of course, you can purchase treasuries and agency bonds of the U.S. government. So you do have some parameters that you should follow. You know, these are not very, it's not very exciting investments. They're certainly restricted for a reason, because you are using public funds to make your investments. And as long as you're putting them to work, I think your constituents can at least respect and honor that you're doing the right thing for them, using their money in the best way possible. And of course, your investment policy itself has 3 main objectives. We always like to highlight that safety is first. So as Jamie mentioned before, safety of principal is our primary objective. Secondary is, of course, making sure that you have liquidity or maturities as needed to meet operational cash flow or project requirements. And the very last thing that we focus on is yield, which is, probably counterintuitive to most, if you're doing your own investments. A lot of people they ask me why we can't invest in Bitcoin or S&P 500, and it's because it's public funds and we want to keep them safe. So our first objective is safety of principal.
One of the reasons why we made this transition last year that Tammy touched on, but I'll just expand a little bit, is we had a lot of money in one place, and we didn't get a lot of interest on it. I mean, we made maybe $150 a year. So I know the numbers, 6,000 doesn't seem like a huge amount. It's way more than what we were getting before, and our money is a little bit more diversified than being all in one account in one place.
And we really are focused on that long-term strategy. So we do stagger the maturities, making sure that you have liquidity on occasion, so that if something were to come up, you always have a maturity. The goal of your portfolio is really to focus on that strategy of that predictable income. So year over year, and as interest rates hopefully start to go up, we can take advantage of some of those increases over the next few years too. And of course, if any questions come up, if you have a burning desire to know a lot about municipal bonds or have any questions about things that come up, you can always ask myself or Greg Johnson, who will be here next week. And if you think of any fun questions about TID, let him know.
Our joint review board is next week. In a
Perfect.
couple weeks, yeah, so.
Yeah, so you're going to learn a lot of new great things in the next couple weeks here. And you'll see 2 of us from my company, so that's exciting as well. And do you have any questions about the portfolio itself, the parameters that we have in place right now, or your investment policy?
What's your minimum rating you accept for inclusion?
So generally speaking, if it's like outside of Wisconsin, we are AA or higher. We do have internally some restrictions on revenue bonds. So I tend to be a little bit more conservative, making sure if it's a revenue issue, what type of coverage do they have? Do they have some reserves that are available to cover principal and interest payments? So if it's a revenue, we're looking at it with a little bit more scrutiny, but AA or higher is typically the minimum we'll take. Wisconsin, even a Wisconsin issuer, if they're non-rated, oftentimes we work with them, so we might be familiar with their finances. If we don't work with them, I do actually a deep dive into their audit to make sure that they are, basically solvent and have good, what I would consider good credit parameters, even if they're not rated.
Do you have a distribution based on revenue, GO, or other type of bonds?
We do, and oftentimes we won't put the portfolio too heavily weighted in any category. GO bonds are by far the most available to us. However, especially in other states, they have different types of bonds that are available to you. There are school district bonds, for example, in Minnesota that go through a credit enhancement program. So the state actually steps in to make principal and interest payments if the school district is unable to. There are a few other states that do that as well. So there are certain different taxing bonds that we can leverage as well. But we generally try to make sure that there's some balance, at least with, especially even if we have, say an over concentration in GO or revenue, we're making sure that it's different types of revenue bonds as well.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Anyone else have any questions before? And certainly, if something comes up, don't be afraid to ask. We're always around. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover?
That was good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming up.
Yes, thank you.
Tammy's actually from Adams
I
County.
am from Adams County,
So-
yes. Yes, I grew up in the area, so I'm familiar with Rome.
All right. Number 11, discussion and possible action, update on the 2022 ambulance services, including possible request for additional information and/or considerations.
So there was a brief memo in the packet tonight that actually covered number 11 and number 12. As I mentioned in the memo, I would send to you as soon as I had it an additional proposal from Lifestar. I have not received one. I have emailed and left a voicemail. I'll leave a voicemail again tomorrow morning or see if I can speak to Mike directly to get that proposal. But I have been in conversation with both the chairpersons from Big Flats and Monroe to organize a meeting as quickly after that we received the proposal together. One of the items I wanted to cover tonight was when we do receive that proposal and we have a joint meeting, is that do we want to have an individual from the board or 2 individuals from the board attend, or is it a whole board meeting? What do you envision that dynamic to look like for that joint meeting? Either way, we will notice it as a town board meeting. And we'll share that notice also with Big Flats and Monroe, so they would publish it similar, since it would be all 3 boards.
Thoughts? I would say notice it, and then those
My
that can
personal
attend.
opinion is that every board member of each of the boards of each town that wants to attend should.
Yes, agree.
I agree.
Okay. So then we'll notice it as a tri-town meeting, and we'll share that agenda with them and encourage them to also post it. So given that I don't have a proposal tonight, I also just think that maybe we want to have a conversation, depending on what that proposal comes back as. Are there additional thoughts or considerations that we want to talk about? I'm throwing these out here. I'm not suggesting them, but just to get some conversation started in a safe place. Do we still want to go forward with 24/7, 365. Do we want to have a conversation about, we want coverage from 9 to 5 in the station? We would do on-call after that. Do we want to have, I mean, are there additional conversations that we feel, given our timeline and waiting for this proposal, that we want to talk about?
I don't know why we wouldn't still be shooting for 24/7, 365.
Yeah, that was my thoughts on the, from the get-go. Bob?
Yeah, I think we go for the whole desire that we have, you know, and then obviously evaluate in terms of, okay, it's gonna cost this much. Can we afford that, or do we have to look at something less than the full plan based upon cost?
So wait till the proposal comes and then we'll have that conversation of,
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I don't think we should throw out the possibility that we're gonna change from 24/7, 365. If we could have an on-call service that's locally provided here with ambulance at their residence.
If we don't have 24/7, 365, then this town board is gonna have a hell of a lot of explaining to do to its residents. And I'm speaking from personal experiences in the last few weeks.
not disagreeing, I'm just saying, do we want to start that conversation? But I'm hearing we want to wait till we have that proposal received, and then we will have that conversation if it's needed at that point.
Right.
Okay,
I think we're in agreement, 24/7, 365.
Right.
That's the starting point. At what level?
ALS, Advanced Life Support.
Yeah. Gotta be.
So as soon as I have a proposal, I will share it, and then we will organize that meeting. I don't know if everyone potentially has a calendar with them. But what would next week potentially look like if that meeting would happen next week,
I can't do Friday,
the 10th?
correct?
Okay.
Depends upon the time of the day.
Well, we do have next week the joint review board meeting for the TIF at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Could we hold 5 o'clock on Wednesday the 8th? Because I'm assuming there's some interest from the majority of the board to attend the joint review board meeting. But it shouldn't take more than an hour to hold that 5 o'clock time frame for the potential of discussion.
Fine with me.
That would
Yeah.
work with me.
Okay.
Yep.
Done with 12?
Down to 12.
Number 13, discussion and possible
No,
action.
you still have to, number 12 is, we have to go through that one.
We do.
Yes.
Then are you down to 12?
Oh, I thought you meant down to 12. On to the next
On to
agenda
12.
item.
All right, see, we're still on 12.
We're on 12.
Discussion and possible action, the Kusa ambulance service updated operational plan and service level downgrade.
Okay, so I'll speak to this one, if I may. This agenda item really relates to two different concerns, both which stem from the information that you were provided at your last meeting, indicating a service level downgrade for the Kusa ambulance service. I said two items that it relates to, or two concerns. One of those concerns was relating to the requirements under the Wisconsin Administrative Code, which was referenced at the last meeting. Those requirements are that each of the community that the ambulance service provider serves hold a public meeting where the downgrade was an agenda item, and either have then a letter of support or understanding from those communities. Since we didn't have an agenda item specifically related to the downgrade, I felt it was prudent to put an agenda item on our agenda that does relate to the downgrade, so we are in compliance with the admin code. So that's why the agenda item is phrased as it is. Second, we had received right before the meeting, last meeting, a proposed acknowledgement letter to sign from I believe it was prepared by the chief of Kusa, and I wanted to address that with you all this evening after reviewing it. So I don't have a concern with the letter as it's worded. I think it's an acknowledgement. The concern I have, though, is whether or not the acknowledgement that you would have in writing would be a then possible acquiescence to a service level downgrade on our current contract. And that is why I would advise not signing this. What I would advise, if we want to have an acknowledgement, would be, and I've prepared a recommended motion, and that would be to acknowledge being informed of the service level downgrade for Kusa Ambulance, but maintain that the current agreement that is in full force and effect be upheld during its remainder. And then they can pass along the minutes to the state.
Thoughts? I agree with it. I agree with it too.
I'd be willing to make the motion if I had it to read.
Yep. The motion would be to acknowledge being informed of the service level downgrade for Kusa Ambulance, but maintain that the current agreement that is in full force and effect be upheld during its remainder.
Say so moved.
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat on this one, so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 13, discussion and possible action, review of Adams County proposed redistricting plan for county board supervisor districts.
So 2020 was a census year. After a census year, when the data is received, we go through a redistricting process. We're only involved on a local level. The county has had discussions about their county board supervisor districts. The county has discussed that they would want to stay at 20 county board supervisors. That's what they currently have. They would continue to have 20 county board supervisors. But the population in Adams County has shifted. And so right now, the town of Rome has 3 supervisors, but one oversees both Rome and Monroe townships. And going forward, we would have 3 that would be in the town of Rome. So obviously, with redrawing those lines, we've been working with the mapping system that's provided by the state, and attached in the packet was 2 potential options. And the redistricting committee at the county just wanted a little input on how we felt about those potential 2 mapping options.
Aren't there 3?
Nope, just 2.
They provided these to us, or we?
We worked through it on with the ad hoc committee and North Central Regional Planning Commission. So the planner from North Central works with the mapping system while we're all online and then Amy and I also had a conference call with North Central to see how we could adjust the districts. The not issue, but how when you work through this, because the population in Adams County, our population increased, but the population overall in the county did decrease. Us in the town of Jackson saw the most substantial increases in the census. But you want your supervisory districts to be somewhat similar in number. So the goal is to have 1,033 people per supervisory district. Being in a rural area, it's never going to be exactly possible to get 1,033, but we want to be close. So option 1, in addition to that, our population base is around the lakes, right? So that makes that area outside of the lakes, that there's population base there, but you almost have to take all of it in a grouping. So option 1, you could see in its districts 17, 19, and 20. The county might decide to renumber those districts and go from north to south, but right now that's what they are. 17 would be the area outside of the Lake District area. 19 is where we have a large population base. That would be a larger district. You can see on the bottom 1,115. And then area 20 would be 957. So, and then option 2, slightly different working of how that mapping would go. Again, section number 19, that's where there's a heavy population concentration, is pretty much identical. Then 20 would encompass that northern part of the town, and 17 the southern part. And Apache would essentially be that break with a little slight variation as you got closer to County Road Z and Peenwell. So the ad hoc committee is just looking for, do we feel strongly about one option or the other option? Again, we've tried to map it several different ways with that strong population condensed in number 19. It's hard to split them any other way where you're not, it gets difficult then when you're having the conversation at the polling place. Are you to the north or to the south or?
I mean, I like option 2 because it gives an opportunity for at least 2 of the supervisors to have a diverse set of constituents as opposed to being the lakes and golf course people versus the non, right? And it's kind of strange to have a district that kind of loops around 2 others. You know, it doesn't make sense to me.
2 seems a little more balanced in population than 1 does, because you took out those 2 little chunks just to the northwest of Sherwood and moved them over into 20.
I have to go along with Dan. I think the number 2 also makes sense. Just having a variety of different constituents, at least, yeah, so you're gonna get a better variety of questions and information and representation.
Okay, I can share back with the county that we have a preference towards option number 2. Again, these maps still might slightly change. They do have to get approved by the county first, and then after they're approved by the county board, they'll come back to us. All municipalities will have to accept the final copy. Another item I would just note is because we've had 2 representatives from the town of Rome, and the way that the maps were previously assembled, both of those individuals would live in district number 19. So in April, we'll have open seats here in the town of Rome. We'll have to encourage some people to run for county board. So keep that also in mind as we go through the redistricting process. Okay, thank you.
Number 14, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 21, a resolution exempting town of Rome from paying Adams County library tax for 2022.
This is a standard resolution that we do every year because we operate our own library system. We report into the state what we levy for that, and it just has to be equal or the same that we would levy if we participated in the library that is down in Adams. So.
Make a motion to approve the resolution exempting town of Rome from paying Adams County library tax.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 15, discussion and possible action, fire chief recruitment considerations, including any updates to position status, description updates, and recruitment plan.
There was a fairly lengthy memo in the packet and then a draft position description, both with track changes and without track changes for just ease in reading. I did note in the memo about the current wage in doing comparables. Seems like we are within range at the $65,291 annually. That would then be subject to whatever increase we would do for non-represented staff for next year through the budget process. So I did receive a call from Police and Fire Commission Chair Baker. He said that the Police and Fire Commission does have some input on the position description, but they would be looking to schedule a meeting next week to share that input. I'm not sure we can start the conversation tonight. This piece of it, the position and the wage are town board consideration. The recruitment does happen with the Police and Fire Commission. So depending on when we make a final decision here, that recruitment process will move to the Police and Fire Commission to happen.
I'm gonna make a couple comments here, and I don't want to be construed as anything favorable one way or the other. This is what I would ask anybody of any time. I do remember somebody a while back, I believe one of our fire chiefs, mentioning that the position was part-time, or should have been part-time, or could have been part-time. So with that in mind, I had 3 thoughts. I've made up a list of about a lot, let's just say a lot of towns in the state of Wisconsin with populations from 2,000 to 4,000. I don't need to fill them all, but I'd like to get those, what departments are full-time, what are part-time, keeping in mind there might be districts involved there. Also, we do have a listing here of all the position descriptions with all their duties, but I'd like to see that put up into times. Is that 40-hour a week, or is that a 32-hour week? In other words, the job title is great, but how much time is needed for each week, every week? And one other thing possible, I don't know if we have time, but did find 2 company consulting firms, Fitch and Associates and McGrath. Possible to talk to those folks and get an idea of what their feelings would be as far as full-time, part-time, and other. Again, I do understand, though, you're going to change your pool of candidates if you go from part-time to full-time. I understand that, but again, just keep an open mind and let's see what we actually do need and go from there. That's my opinion.
So do you have a list of the municipalities you want checked for part-time or full-time? Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Is that all you want from them, or do you want any additional information?
Thoughts? Think about it, see what else we can, what might conjure up. I have talked to 2 other fire chiefs, past fire chiefs, we'll say, in other areas, so it's open. I mean, it's one said one, one said the other, so. Just covered.
And then percentage of time for the essential functions that are listed in the position description? Okay,
Again, justify it, let's move forward.
okay.
Well, not just percentage of time, but like quantify it, right? Like
yeah.
administrative duties in general, what are they and how many hours per week do they take? Et cetera, et cetera. Training, obviously there's amount of training hours that go in each week. So, reports.
We'll have to work through that, because I'm assuming some stuff is weekly, but some stuff is probably monthly or annually, and we'll just have to, those will get listed a little bit differently.
Yep.
And you said the PFC has feedback on the job description. They're intending to meet with us, or they need to have a meeting?
They just had asked to meet with me, and I can bring that back to the next meeting, because then I could bring back this.
Anybody else?
So on the list that you provided, if they are part of a area, if they're part of an intergovernmental agreement, are we asking still if they're full-time or
I
part?
would not, no.
Okay.
Well, if the population hasn't changed much, but obviously you're gonna have a larger population, I wouldn't mess with it.
Okay. Does population matter in the conversation?
I think so.
Okay.
Wouldn't it?
So is population listed on there, or I should
Yes,
ask
I
for
have the
population?
populations.
Okay. But if they have intergovernmental agreements for larger areas.
Yeah. And you can start in the center and work out, you might start getting an idea before you have to go through the whole thing. I know it's a bit of work, but.
Are there any other items supervisors want researched or considered?
I like the way it was written this time because it's easier to read the way you put it basically in bullet form.
I guess I would say when you compile that data, I don't know if you have that in spreadsheet form that you can give Jamie, but
Yes.
then, once you have that, if you could send it to us, so that if we want to do a little research on our own with any of these communities, just to see more about their demographics, aside from population, we can.
Yeah, there might be extenuating, who knows, so, but, starting point.
Yeah, and if they're, and maybe it's not something that is coming to mind right now, but if there's things that you think of that you want, if we're making the calls, we might as well ask the questions all at the same time. I know that interim Chief Kane had said that 2 chiefs ago that the town had done a study. I haven't been able to place my hands on that, but my understanding is there was a study done at one time about moving to a full-time chief.
And who did the study?
I don't know, Jerry, do you remember who did this study? Does that ring a bell about a study?
The
Yes,
Police and
it
Fire
does,
Commission did the study.
Okay.
That's that article that I provided you from the Police and Fire Commission.
But that wasn't from that was from the Police and Fire Commission, but it wasn't from the consultant.
It wasn't from the consultant, so I don't know if they have those buried here, but they did have a consultant come in, and that was in 2002, I believe that letter was dated that the
Yeah.
PFC
Yeah.
put out.
I have a letter from the Chief shared a letter from 2002 where the PFC put out how they went through a recruitment process. But, and I can certainly share that letter also. That isn't solely about full-time, part-time, it's a series of
Sure.
events that was occurring at that
Sure.
moment.
Anything more on 15? Number 16, discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number 21, recommendation from the Dead Timber and Brush Task Force amending Chapter 287, Article 3, restrictions on dead timber and brush, Section 287-15, dead trees and brush prohibited in managed areas, and Section 287-18, definitions.
So included in the packet was both the memo from me and the amended ordinance from the task force. I did reach out with the amended ordinance to all 3 of the lake associations and just also invited them to either provide comment or to be here tonight to participate. I didn't hear back any comments or concerns about the revisions to the ordinance. I also included in the memo some outreach activities in order to share these changes to the ordinance. The big one being that we're gonna mail letters next week for our fall cleanup, and the amended ordinance will go on the back of those letters, in addition to some additional information about the fire ignition zone around homes.
So just so I'm clear, we're removing the dwelling language, we're replacing it with building, and this entire ordinance now applies solely to parcels of land 2 acres or less with any sort of structure that's defined by the building language in here, and only 100 feet around said structure.
So 2 acres or less, whole parcel. If you're above 2 acres, then you can't influence anyone else's ignition zone. So wherever there would be what's considered a building, is if that 100-foot ignition zone went into any parcel of any size or any ownership, that would have to also be clear, because you wouldn't be able to negatively impact anyone else's ignition zone.
In other words, the 2 acres or less remains unchanged.
Yes. But prior to this, if you were greater than 2 acres, it was the 100 feet around your dwelling. Now, it doesn't matter if the dwelling's on another property, you couldn't influence anyone else's ignition zone.
And it's not dwelling, it's now building.
Building.
And just a, really one more general comment is that the definitions that you have in front of you, those are definitions consistent with other provisions of our ordinance. It was important to keep those definitions consistent. You wouldn't want a definition of building necessarily to be totally out of whack with where it is in the building code, for example. So we used consistent definitions throughout our ordinance.
What challenges with enforcement are we anticipating on this? Because this doesn't seem easy. Not that I don't disagree, or not, I agree with all this, but just asking the question. If we put ordinances in place, we have to have a mechanism to enforce them, right?
Crawl,
Well,
walk,
it
run.
would be, with the next survey that we've done, we have divided the town into 5 quadrants. So the next quadrant, if this is passed, would be surveyed based on this.
In addition, we've had, through this task force, committee, I know Lori's here too and was on the task force, had a lot of conversation about how do we continue to reach out to the lake associations and talk about different means or methods with those cleanups. So I think when the ordinance was originally put in place, it's been kind of a couple years since we've had that focus. And so sending out some additional information and sort of asking like, what are your challenges, or, you know, is also going to be helpful. I'm not disagreeing, there's probably some potential here where it might not be visible from the road, or, but we also had a lot of conversation that it's not possible for all those common areas to be cleaned up in a time, it's a huge undertaking. So how do we sort of bite-sized chunk it off?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a plan from each of the Lakes Association as to how they will deal with their outlots, or whatever they want to call them, to try to
Camelot's not
clear.
doing anything.
Well, no, that's not true. They get
That
funded
is true.
from the DNR each year, and
No.
they clear portions of their outlets.
$5,000 doesn't.
I know
really-
5,000 doesn't cut it, but they do something.
You gotta get on the state on this.
Camelot's the only one that's got any amount of outlaw. Sherwood lots are pretty well taken care of
Yeah.
on an annual basis now, have been.
Well, Arrowhead has a series of what they call them as greenways, but they have a series of properties of greenway property.
That's true. Yeah, all right.
But Mark Strauss had joined our committee, or joined the task force, and I know is organizing like a team work day, and so,
We're doing as much as we can with as little authority as we have to do it.
yeah.
Any further discussion? Well, we're gonna need a motion, I think, on this.
Yes, you would need a motion to adopt the amended
Yep.
ordinance.
Can I get a motion, please?
Yes, I'll move to adopt the amended ordinance, chapter 287, and restrictions of dead timber and brush.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 17, discussion and possible action, request to approve discharge permits for hunting on town-owned property.
So there was an application from the Rome Police Department, and Chief is obviously here tonight if there are some additional questions, but again, this year we've had interest about hunting on town-owned property. This came up last year, and right before hunting season, that's when this application process was developed. And at that point, the town board had also suggested that in addition to the application and the fee being paid, that there should be a guideline of one person per 15 acres when we would be receiving these about hunting on town-owned property. We just wanted to revisit the conversation this year, if it would be something again that the town board would support about hunting on town-owned property, and that the process again would be that they would fill out this application with the police department, they would pay a fee, and then we would not allow more than one person per 15 acres to hunt. Did I miss anything, Chief?
I don't think so. Was it archery hunting only last year? If I recall correctly, I believe it was
Yes.
archery.
Yes.
I
only.
believe
Yes,
there was
it was
one last
archery
year for a
only.
rifle, or, I thought one was for a rifle, I
So-
thought, I read one.
That's not, it likely was not on town-owned property. We do have the county forest land within the
Okay.
town, and they have to allow hunting, but that's been changed by, county conservationists, that, it will allow for shotgun, not rifle, and archery on that parcel that's in county forest land.
So we're discussing archery here?
Yes.
Jason?
Can I ask?
What's it?
I didn't see anything here about the one person for 15 acres, so.
I would just, the background of this, the town ordinance says I can issue these permits when they drafted it. At that time, they told me I'm not to issue any permits unless they decided to, and for years it went with no hunting. So last year, as Jamie said, they started the bow hunting, and the board wanted it revisited before the next hunting season. I would ask whatever the board does, that we just leave it in my authority along with Jamie, as the ordinance is written, that if we decide archery hunting's gonna be allowed, that we don't have to come back next year, that we can just start issuing the permits as they expire. And it worked, we didn't have any complaints last year with the archery hunting. We issued 2 or 3 permits and everything was fine with it, so I don't see it being any kind of issue.
So I agree that we should leave it.
I'm here for this.
Step up, please. State your name and address, please.
My name?
Your name, please.
Tom Kemper. I'm just here for the hunting permits. I was just seeing the thing. I only had one question. What's the fee for it?
$15.
$15.
Okay. And then, I guess I have one more. Where do I get the forms, please?
The police department will have them.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're looking for a motion here.
The only thing I would like added is, we should specify that there's only 100 allowed per 15 acres of property in that parcel, just so that that's in the guidelines here, the regulations, so that people know that up front.
Yep, that was from the minutes from last year when we had looked up the discussion, so if that's again what the board would want, I would just ask that we make that part of a motion.
Well, the other thing, just to point out, if we go back to the minutes, I know there was a comment made about the fee being 15 and whether it should be 30. So I don't know if you want to re-review that or if you want to keep the fee at 15, but reviewing the minutes from that last meeting, I know that was a comment that came up.
Does $15 cover the administrative time required to process this?
We have some software as well, so that's, the talk of the $30 was due to the fact we have licensing software that takes care of issuing all this stuff that increased our costs.
So we go to 30? Go to 30, okay.
Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that we, again, make the changes to the regulations as we've discussed here and allow the chief to administer this program and the administrator.
Ongoing,
Ongoing.
At $30.
yes.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Excuse me. Number 18, discussion of possible action, request from Visit Rome, Wisconsin to waive the fee for use of the gazebo in the town Rome Town Center for a pop-up concert, live music, rescheduled rain date on October 9th, 2021 from 3 to 8 p.m.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 19, discussion and action, approval of temporary Class B retailer license for the American Legion Ryan Larson Post 65 to sell fermented malt beverages at the Lake Arrowhead Farewell Picnic event on September 5th, 2021 from 8 a.m. until midnight at the Lake Arrowhead South Lake Center, 1374 Rain Dance Trail.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Dates and items for future agenda meetings. Number 20, next agenda items.
So at our next meeting on September 16th, we do have a new piece of equipment that went into active service at the fire department. It's a high suppression water system.
Ultra high pressure.
Ultra high pressure. So we'd like to show it. It was a cooperative effort between us and the fire department fund. And we're wondering if we could display it at the training site, which is located on the transfer site grounds. To display it here in the parking lot would kind of be messy. So we would rather do it out there where it's made to be trained and put into use. So we would notice that as a quorum notice and then come here for the meeting, if that would be acceptable.
Works for me.
So if we did, would it be okay if maybe we did like 4:30 and did that before?
30?
Okay?
We will also have pending The recommendation from the Plan Commission will have an ordinance amendment to our zoning ordinance to consider.
And I'm gonna try for the next meeting, but we've had a discussion internally about, we have a lot of these approvals for, waiving the fee for Rome Town Center. If we can put together a short policy and then just do that internally as staff, rather than have to bring it here to the board meetings to do. If they're nonprofits, if it's for a community event, just having that be waived by staff internally rather than having to come to town board.
Makes sense to me.
Agree. So we're all set their next meeting date and time, 9/16 at 4:30 at the transfer site?
September is we have a lot of quality time together in September. We'll just run down the list. September 8th at 4 p.m. is our joint review board. That's where we do our annual review and report about our TIF. So that'll be at 4. Then we're holding 5 p.m. for a potential ambulance service meeting, hopefully joint with the neighboring municipalities. September 15th at 5 p.m. is going to be our first budget meeting, special budget meeting. September 16th at 5 p.m. will be our regular town board meeting, and September 28th at 5 p.m. will be our second budget meeting. What was that? September 16th and September 28th.
What was the second one? September,
The second budget meeting or the second one mentioned?
second one mentioned.
September 15th is our first budget meeting at 5 o'clock, Wednesday, September 15th.
Okay. And then,
There were two mentioned on the 8th.
Yep.
So the second one actually mentioned was the 5 o'clock potential ambulance tri-town.
That's not definitely yet.
No,
Potential.
no, just holding that.
okay.
Is it helpful if I just do meeting invites for all of those and you load them to your calendars?
Yeah.
Is that helpful? Okay.
Okay. You got a motion for adjournment, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't think so. Motion carried.